Paul Pelosi has a run-in with somebody. I guess nobody even really knows what's going on with it at this point. Our friends to the left believe wholeheartedly that this was a politically motivated attack, and our friends to the right believe that this was a friend. We'll go through some of the details of what was going on with that, and we will see if you can make your own determination. In other news, Elon gets a letter from Twitter saying that he has 30 days to complete a course on how to be an effective Twitter manager. And I'm sure that he is going to jump right on that. So we'll be going over that and what that means and where we go with that. Let's see. The arrest is made in the burglary attempt at the HQ of Katie Hobbs, and it turns out that it was not politically motivated. So we'll go over some of that. And a catastrophe in Seoul, South Korea leaves several dead as people still try to look back and try to figure out what happens. It is going to be all this and more. We are in the final countdown to midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. So if this would have happened in any other week, I still would have questioned it. But, I mean, this thing with Paul Pelosi is just, it's wild. And it, I think it was staged, but I don't think it was staged to change any of the midterm outcomes. I think a lot of it was staged so that people could go back and start finding reasons to go purge people off their social media and other things, and maybe get them kicked out of social media on Elon's side, because now they can go back and tell the advertisers, hey, oh, look at all these conspiracy theories that Elon let back on the platform. Oh my God, advertisers, you better go and pull out. Nothing about the Paul Pelosi thing makes sense, and nothing about it has ever made sense. I don't know why people are buying into this. I can't wrap my head around any of this. So we'll go over some of this, and again, I'll show most of my coverage is coming from left-leaning sources who believe wholeheartedly that David Pape is this super, ultra, completely right-wing mega person, and they're going to try to convince you of that. So we'll go over their evidence. And again, I want you to look at both sides and make your own determination. I know that because it's been 2 days, a lot of you probably already have, but we'll look actually into some of this and see what happens with this. We've got a lot of stuff to go over here today, and a bit of a late start, just doing some prep here. There is going to be, in the near term, an announcement regarding Contemporary. And I'm sorry that it's going to come like this, but a lot of things happened very suddenly last week, unfortunately. Very suddenly. Very, very suddenly. I want to continue to do this. The time is most likely going to change. The time slot's going to change. And it's probably going to come later in the day if I had to make a prediction on anything. And also, it may not be able to be an all-day thing or an everyday thing anymore. That's really the only detail I can go into right now off of that. But I do want you to know that no matter what happens here in the next few weeks, when I pass away, hopefully many, many, many years from now, I would like to pass away sitting in this chair, giving you guys a final sign-off. Again, I hope that's in like 50 years. Because I do love doing this, going over the news in a way that you can't get kicked off of social media for, or on YouTube for, unless you show a violent attack that you shouldn't have shown, or happen to be at a speech that all the rest of the major news outlets can go and broadcast, but you, the independent, don't dare put it out there because it might be election misinformation. But still the news, because I'm, no matter what, going to be a working man, and I still think that you deserve to get your news from, well, okay, I'm not going to call myself an unbiased source, but a source that can still present an unbiased manner that appeals to the working man, not the man who's sitting there in a suit that costs more than your house and telling you how you're supposed to feel because he's the authority. I want you to decide how you're supposed to feel about this kind of stuff. So, but with that, we got to get into the news because I do have a heart out today. Yes, I know, no costume today either because of the things that I mentioned before at the top. It snuck up on me. I got home from work on Friday and realized, oh, Halloween's on Monday, and I didn't get the last prop for my costume. That makes it the costume. So, no, unfortunately, there will be no costume today. That is my bad. Again, with a lot of things that just changed in the last couple of weeks, it was very sudden, and I looked down at the calendar, I'm like, it's the 28th. There's no way I can get this last piece in by the 31st. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming out there on the YouTube, on the Twitter, on the Twitch, on everywhere else. I'm talking, of course, about the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown, Breaking Off, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. If you're over on Twitter or over on YouTube, as mentioned in the chat, go check out KTZed or go check out Tweets by Brit as well. Those are good follows over on Twitter. Good sources of entertainment and news and discussion, so go and check them out. Or check out also other great programming like the No Gimmicks podcast on audio platforms only. Mr. Behavior over on Twitch doing gaming, game development, and trying to build his part of the culture war. And PJ Patriot and all of his various guests as well. Go check out all of that great programming and help them bring us more news, more culture, by the common man, for the common man. And let's get started in with the finance. Starting with the Dow. The Dow spent the day on Friday up. Now the futures are questioning that and seeing what's happening with that, but we're approaching the 33,000 mark. And I'm going to say right now, if we keep going on days like this until election day, then we are going to get back to where we were when we were sitting up at the peak earlier on. Probably not to 36,952, pushing on 37,000, but probably a good 35,000. My worry, and I talked with Sewall about this last night in the Discord chat, is that this is going to come with a major crash after midterms, that they're just kind of pumping it up, and as soon as the midterms are over, oh look, the Republicans crashed, or look, everybody sold off because it was Republicans ruin economies. So I'm sitting here watching this, and we're going to continue to watch this as we go along and see what happens with this and where this goes. So we'll see what happens with that. Looking at your Bitcoin, which had a wild weekend, resulting in another well, it wasn't really a crash, but a steady drop throughout the weekend, and then a sudden spike as we started in today. The Bitcoin sitting at 20,711.50, bringing this back down to 1 day, and you can see where it was trending down. It tried to rally again, trended down, and then just very recently popped itself back up. So if you've got the Bitcoin today, you won a little bit, and we'll continue to watch this and see where this goes. The gas prices are coming up in the Madison area, which is a little surprising given how close we are to a crucial midterm in a crucial swing state, in the capital of a crucial swing state, and in the places where the progressives all gather. The Quick Trip on the far west side has come up to 359. The Quick Trip on the east side has come up to 360. The BP that was at 340 is now at 350 on the Isthmus. The 346 is now at 350, so 350 seems to be the average around the Madison area. Your prices may be different. Your prices may go up or down as we go, but we've been watching this since the rise started again. That's been one of the things that we've been watching as we go, and as we've been watching this, we've seen and watched a benchmark of what's been happening with the gas as it goes. So that's what we see coming off of this. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. From Investors Business Daily. Dow futures fall, Fed pivot hopes fueling market rally face big test. From Ed Carson. Dow futures fell modestly Monday morning along with the S&P futures and the NASDAQ futures, with earnings season still in full swing. But the focus this week will be on a pivotal Federal Reserve meeting as well as the October jobs report. The stock market rally had a volatile week, but ultimately showed resilience and strength amid sell-offs in Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Google parent Alphabet. The Dow, the Russell, and ultimately the S&P cleared their 50-day lines. The NASDAQ did not, but rebounded for strong weekly gains as Apple soared on its quarterly results. Earnings season remains packed with top companies reporting: Arista Networks, Albemarle, CF Industries, Cheniere Energy, and Quanta Services report this coming week. Arista Networks, Albemarle, CF Industries, and Quanta Services are all close to potential buy points. Here's a bonus stock on semiconductor. Often known as onsemi, reported better than expected quarter 3 results before Monday's open. onsemi closed Friday near a trend line entry, but fell slightly in pre-market trade. The EV chip maker has shown wild stock action in the past few months. Let's see. We've got symbols, so let's see what they go with. Cheniere Energy is on the IBD leaderboard, while Albemarle and CF Industries are on the leaderboard watch list. Arista Networks and CF Industries are on the IBD 50. For the Fed meeting, the Federal Reserve meets on November 1st to 2nd, with policymakers set to raise rates yet again. Some relatively tame inflation data and various central bank moves and signals around the world have bolstered hopes the Fed will soon pivot to smaller rate hikes. But see, they're still hiking. Markets still strongly expect the Fed will increase rates by 75 points for a 4th straight meeting, though there's now a small chance of just a half-point move. But for the December meeting, the betting has shifted towards a half-point Fed rate hike. So investors will pay close attention to the Fed policy statement at 2 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday, and especially Fed Chief Jerome Powell's news conference at 2:30 p.m. for any Fed pivot hints. But there will still be a lot of Fed moving economic data before the year-end. Fed meeting includes 2 jobs reports. The October report is due this coming Friday, 3 days after the September JOLTS survey. Signs of an easing labor market could reinforce Fed pivot hopes, but robust hiring and falling unemployment could signal further big rate hikes and a higher endpoint. Economists expect October non-farm payrolls to rise 210,000. That would be a solid gain, but the third straight month slowing hiring and the smallest increase since December of 2020. Once again, their goal is to get you out of the market, to ruin your life so the government can continue to fire hose money into the economy both in the world and at home. Consequence-free. On the futures, Dow futures declined 0.5 versus fair value, the S&P sank 0.5, and the Nasdaq fell 0.6. Futures are off overnight lows. The 10-year yield rose 3 points to 4.04%, which is the federal government begging you, buy bonds, buy, please, please. We promise we'll pay you back in 30 years. Crude oil futures fell more than 1%, while natural gas prices spiked more than 10%. Copper futures sank over 1%. China manufacturing and services PMI indices fell back below the break-even 50 level, signaling contraction. Increasing COVID curbs in the past few weeks are taking their toll on the Chinese economy, along with overseas weakness. Leftist former leader Luiz Ignacio Lula da Silva won Sunday's runoff presidential election, narrowly defeating right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro. Petrobras, the state-owned oil giant, tumbled on concerns that Lula will shift its focus to social needs over profit and shareholder returns. That is going to also make an effect on your gas prices, just so you know. Because gas is a global market. It's the same reason that people come out and say, well, we wouldn't have got a single thing. We wouldn't have got a single drop of fuel from the Keystone Pipeline. Well, oil's a global market, so when you flood that with oil coming both out of Canada and Alaska out into the global market, the rest of the world can lower their prices and ease their prices some. Wheat futures jumped as Russia exited a deal letting Ukraine ship crops from the Black Sea. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. That's going to be something, and I'm actually going to put a pin in this because there's the anticipation, of course, that the House goes back GOP, which means the spigot of money for the Ukraine is suddenly turned off. It's done. It's over. Which means that what they're putting into the global market for wheat is going to dry up, and that's going to become more expensive coming after the midterms. And Russia also knows they can put the pressure on now too. So we'll continue to watch this and see what happens with this. I got 2 more on finance, and then we will go and talk about what's happening in the Pelosi household. Another Fed jumbo rate hike is expected next week, and then life gets difficult for Powell. From Greg Robb over at MarketWatch. First, the easy part. Economists widely expect the Federal Reserve to approve the 4th straight jumbo interest rate rise at its meeting next week. The 0.75 percentage point hike would bring the central bank's benchmark rate up to a level of 3.75 to 4%. The November decision is a lock. Well, it would be floored if it didn't go 75 basis points, said Jonathan Pingle, chief U.S. economist at UBS. The decision will come at 2 p.m. Wednesday after 2 days of talks. What happens at Jerome Powell's press conference a half hour later will be more fraught. The focus will be on whether Powell gives a signal to the market about plans for a smaller rise in benchmark interest rate in December. The Fed's dot plot projection of interest rates released in September already penciled in a slowdown to a half-point hike in December, followed by a quarter-point hike in early 2023. The market is expecting signals for a change in policy, but many think Powell will use his press conference as a hint that a slower pace of interest rate rises is coming. A Wall Street Journal story last week said that some Fed officials are not keen to keep hiking rates by 75 points per meeting. That, alongside San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly's comments that the Fed needs to start talking about slowing down the pace of hikes, were taken as a sign of a slowdown to come by the stock and bond markets. No one wants to be late for the pivot party, so the hint was enough, said Ian Shepherdson, chief economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics. Luke Tilley, chief economist at Wilmington Trust, thinks Powell will signal a smaller rate hike in December by focusing on some of the good wage inflation news that was published earlier on Friday. There was a clear slowdown in private sector wage growth, Tilley said. But the problem with Powell signaling he has found an exit ramp for the jumbo rate hikes this year is that his committee members might not be ready to signal a downshift, Pingle of UBS said. He argued that inflation data writ large in September won't give Fed officials any confidence that a cooling in pressures is in the offing. Another worry for Powell is that the future data might not cooperate. There are 2 employment reports and 2 consumer price inflation reports before the next Fed policy meeting, December 13th to 14th. So Powell may have to reverse course. If you pre-commit and the data slaps you in the head, then you can't follow through, said Stephen Stanley, chief economist at Amherst Pierpoint Securities. This has been the Fed's pattern all year, Stanley noted. It was only in March that the Fed thought its terminal rate, or the peak benchmark rate, wouldn't rise above 3%. While the Fed may want to slow down the pace of rate hikes, it doesn't want the market to take a downshift in the size of rate rises as a signal that the rate cuts is in the offing anytime soon. But some analysts believe that the talk about the first cut will come soon after the Fed reduces the size of its rate rises. So, TLDR, even though we did just read this after going through this, is they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen or what's going to bring the interest rates back down. Now, as we continue to watch this and see what happens with this, yes, our year-over-year inflation is going to remain sky high, probably no matter what happens in the midterms until at least April of next year. And there's also going to be incentive as a lot of programs dry up if Republicans take the House, that we are also going to sit and watch a relatively large amount of people try to get themselves back into the workforce by whatever means necessary. That also depresses wages. That's some of what we saw on the, quote, Great Recession, when people were desperately trying to find a job, get into the market, take whatever it was that they could. You've got people coming out and saying, well, I'll work for way less than this person. I just got to feed my family. My unemployment's drying up. My welfare is drying up. I can't make it off of that anymore. The prices are rising too high. And that's going to be an effect to see. So we'll continue to watch what happens with this and see where it goes. And of course, those who are out there trying to buy their first homes are going to be having other problems that go along with that too. I know that I am in that boat right now. But we'll continue to watch this. And on the energy front, this isn't necessarily markets news, but I thought that it fit in there because we talk about gas prices in this. From the Blaze, wind farm in Germany being demolished to make room for coal mine. From Paul Saka. A wind farm in Germany is being demolished to make room for a coal mine expansion. German energy giant RWE is tearing down wind turbines to expand a neighboring coal mine in an effort to deal with the country's energy crisis. The area of the wind farm near the small town of Lützerath will be used to expand the Garzweiler open pit mine in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. The wind farm features 8 wind turbines. 1 turbine was dismantled last week. 2 more are scheduled to be deconstructed sometime next year. And the final 5 will be taken down by the end of 2023. RWE officials admit that the move appears to be paradoxical. I got this feeling that as it gets colder in Europe, especially in Germany, that this timeline is going to get moved up. We realize that this comes across as paradoxical, but this is as matters stand, RWE spokesperson Guido Stefan said in a statement. No, that's not a quote. The Ministry of Economy in North Rhine-Westphalia added, if Lützerath was to be preserved, the production volume required to maintain security of supply over the next 8 years could not be achieved. Stability of open cast mine could not be guaranteed and necessary recultivation could not be carried out. In addition, RWE will reactivate 3 lignite-fired coal units that were previously on standby. These 3 lignite units will have capacity of 300 megawatts. With their deployment, they contribute strengthening security of supply in Germany during energy crisis and saving natural gas and electricity generation, RWE said in September. Originally, this was planned for 3 reserve power units. Affected would be permanently shut down September 30th, 2020 and September 30th, 2023, respectively. Germany's cabinet approved the decision to revive the unused coal units after energy prices skyrocketed because of the sanctions issued due to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. North Rhine-Westphalia and RWE had previously declared they would stop using fossil fuels by 2030. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? Climate change activists are furious about the transition from wind power to fossil fuels. Last week, there were thousands of demonstrators who participated in protests against high energy prices in 6 German cities: Berlin, Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Hanover, and Dresden. As of September of 2021, 60% of Germany's gas came from Russia, but last month it was down to bagel. 0. None. I wonder why that would be a problem. Reuters reported Germany imported 37.6% of gas from Norway in September, compared to 19.2% in the same month last year, while Dutch deliveries climbed to 29.6% of imports from 13.7%, data from utility industry group BDEW showed. Last week, BASF, the world's largest chemical group by revenue, announced the company will permanently downsize in Europe because of high energy costs have made the region increasingly uncompetitive. So, there you go. Go woke, go broke. Again, I'm not against using a wind farm to supplement your energy grid. I'm not against solar supplementing your energy grid. But we are not there technologically to make that your primary source yet. It is possible somewhere down the road it will happen. I think solar power is cool. But there are so many trade-offs to that. And it's the same thing with building these giant steel windmills. The amount of copper and oil that has to go into these to keep them running, to keep them lubricated, to keep things going in the wind, offsets all the electricity you get off of that. Hell, the amount of coal that it takes to forge the steel to build the damn thing offsets whatever little bit of energy you get out of the thing. Each one of those 4 windmills could spin full speed until the blades fall off, and will not produce enough energy to offset the amount of coal that was put into the building of them. And solar's got the other trade-off. A, sometimes it gets cloudy. We haven't built the proper capacitor technology to make that all work yet. That could be somewhere down the pipeline where we could put out solar fields and actually store up the energy to use when it gets dark out, obviously. But the technology we're using for solar panels now has a lot of problems with it as well. If those things crack, break, or anything bad happens to them, the chemical that gets out does make the land fallow for several decades afterwards because it's so toxic to the environment. It's a good idea in theory. Just put a panel out there that can come back and convert and make energy into a full photovoltaic cell and use the radiation that's getting bombarded to our planet on a daily basis. But what's the trade-off? So we'll continue to watch what's happening here. We'll continue to see what happens with this. Let's get into the main news of the day, and I mean, we all know what we're going to talk about first. We all know. ABC News! In an article that has been edited since then, to put details into it, that's why I moved it down off of this. Breaking, Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was violently assaulted by someone who broke into his San Francisco home early Friday, according to her spokesperson. Nothing about this story adds up. Not one single thing about this has made sense from the beginning, unless you take into account the fact that they needed something to put political violence back in the minds of people who may have already forgotten about the January 6th committee. Because, I mean, I kind of just sit and lurk on Twitter all day. I see, because I don't have anybody blocked, and I don't feel right muting people unless they're actively clogging up my mentions. Unless they're actively spamming my mentions, I don't even mute. I think I've got like 4 people muted right now, and I went and did, as Steven says, a jubilee at one point on Twitter and unmuted everybody who was muted. But I have no people blocked, which means that, you know, all the paid shill accounts, except for the ones that blocked me, thank you, Tedrick, are continually still spammed on my feed. That is the one thing that I do hope that Elon changes. There are 2 things for Twitter that I hope Elon changes. One is I hope that he stops the spamming of these left-wing these paid chill accounts. So I don't have to constantly see JoJo from Joy's, or I am a Jersey dad, except it's my wife's son and I am reliant on the government, or people like that. Kind of want some of these people to block me, I really do. Because I don't want to see their crap, which is fun because I don't have to see Tedrick, John Cooper, or Palmer Report ever again. And they were the ones that were spammed there. And you know, I also haven't seen that washed up Chicago Republican politician Walsh for a long time. I'm going to count my blessings on that one. Maybe he blocked me too. That would be nice. But, I mean, they're all out here spamming and trying to tell you about the January 6th committee and, you know, again, looking at the fact that, oh, well, this is the same kind of political violence. And they're accusing there, we'll talk about with this. But let's get into it. Let's talk about what's happening here. Starting with some of the immediate aftermath from Insider. Paul Pelosi secretly called 911 while in front of the intruder and spoke in code dispatcher to convey what was happening. Why are you here? What are you going to do to me? Kelsey Vlamis and Taylor Simone Mitchell, which I think that what they're doing here is to try to offset the fact that this was a friend who was in the house. The claim that's been going around with that, which I haven't listened to the call yet, but I believe the Blaze has a link to it. The San Francisco Police Department confirmed during a press conference on Friday that Paul Pelosi, husband of Speaker Pelosi, was somehow able to call 911 before being attacked with a hammer, allowing dispatch to respond. Police Chief William Scott said that when officials arrived in Paul Pelosi and the attacker were standing in the entryway to the home, each holding on to the hammer. Confirmation that Paul Pelosi made a 911 call came after media reports said that he had secretly called 911 so that the intruder would not know and spoke in a way that would alert the dispatcher to what was happening without giving himself away. Sources told the LA Times that Paul Pelosi told the intruder he needed to use the bathroom and called 911 after stepping away, leaving the line open. The Times reported dispatcher Heather Grimes overheard Paul Pelosi and the intruder talking and alerted police to the situation. That right there is the beginning part of what doesn't make sense. I'm going to kill you! I'm going to take you out! I'm going to kill you! Okay, well, just let me go to the bathroom first, please, okay? I don't know if any of you have ever had a home break-in before. I have. While I was there. Where the intruder just said, okay, well, yeah, just go off into another room. Just, no, you're fine. A source with knowledge of the situation gave a similar account to CNN. John Miller, the outlet's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst, said Paul Pelosi secretly called 911 somehow and left the line open. He said when dispatcher Grimes answered, no one responded, and responded to her rather, but she could hear a background conversation and sensed something was off. She turned the volume up to listen in. Paul Pelosi is basically trying to tell her in code what's going on. Why are you here? What are you going to do to me? I mean, you can imagine how he's trying not to let the attacker know 911 is listening, Miller said. Based on what she heard, Grimes called for a high-priority wellness check at the house. He said when officers arrived, they saw men struggling over the hammer before the intruder struck Pelosi with the hammer, conveniently right in front of police officers, according to Miller, who added that this all happened on body camera footage. Conveniently on body cam footage and nowhere else. No surveillance tapes, no guards, no Capitol Police, but conveniently on body cam footage for the San Francisco Police Department. While police didn't confirm the specifics of the 911 calls reported by CNN and the LA Times, the chief did praise Grimes by name for her actions during the press conference on Friday evening. I want to reemphasize and thank our dispatcher, Heather Grimes, for intuition, quick thinking. She had to interpret what she was being told, and based on her experience and her intuition, she basically figured out that there was something more to this incident than what she was being told, Scott said. Her actions, in my opinion, resulted in a higher priority dispatch and faster police response. The San Francisco Police Department and Capitol Police did not immediately respond to insiders' requests for additional information. I'm going to put myself into the mind of a criminal for just a second. Because it's the attacker let him go to the bathroom thing. That's bothered me right from the beginning. Right from the first time I heard that, I said, no, that didn't happen. There's no way that happened. If I'm sitting here in front of a high-profile target that I'm just possibly going after specifically because he is a high-profile target, and this is somebody who's rich, somebody who I know is rich, and somebody who the laws don't apply to. I know with San Francisco having some of the strictest gun control laws in the world, but the rules don't apply to the rich, powerful politicians. Oh, let me just go off into this other room, away from here, and close the door. How do I know that dude's not going in there to get a gun? Or call 911? Or to set off some security system, panic room, some situation like that. Oh, I came into this house. I broke into this house, got past all the security, and broke into one of the most well-guarded homes in the world to kill somebody. But I'm just going to let the person I was targeting walk away and walk out of the room. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to you either, does it? Thought I had the call. Maybe I didn't. We'll look into that a little bit more. From the Blaze, Paul Pelosi had surgery for skull fracture after assault. Pelosi's husband Paul underwent surgery after being assaulted at his own home, according to a statement from Drew Hamill, a spokesperson for the Democratic lawmaker. The Congresswoman's husband had surgery to address a skull fracture and other injuries, but is expected to fully recover. Earlier this morning, Paul Pelosi was attacked at home by an assailant who acted with force and threatened his life while demanding to see the speaker, Hamill said in a statement. Mr. Pelosi was admitted to Zuckerberg, San Francisco. You've got to be kidding me. He bought the hospital? Are you joking? Where he underwent successful surgery to repair a skull fracture and serious injuries to the right arm and hands, his doctors expect a full recovery. In another statement on Friday, Hamill noted that Pelosi was not in the city at the time of the attack. During a press conference, San Francisco Police Department Chief Bill Scott said the authorities arrived and saw the suspect and Paul Pelosi both holding a hammer. Scott said the suspect yanked the tool away and then violently assaulted the congresswoman's husband with it. Scott said police tackled suspect Dave DePape and took the individual into custody. Which is weird because in any other situation, they would have come out shooting. We've got an update that we can go look at here, but I think we'll be talking about that later on in this. No one deserves to be assaulted, Rand Paul tweeted. Unlike Pelosi's daughter, who celebrated my assault, I condemn this attack and wish Mr. Pelosi a speedy recovery. We'll hold off on the news conference for just now. Police chief coming in to tell us what we're supposed to think about this. Attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband was not random, police chief says. From Emily Shapiro, Luke Barr, Mike Levine, and Meredith DeLiso. You know why, Phantom Fixer. You already know why. Paul Pelosi, husband of Speaker Pelosi, was violently assaulted by a man who broke into a San Francisco home early Friday, according to her spokesperson. Pelosi said in a Dear Colleague letter to all House members on Saturday that she and her family were left heartbroken and traumatized by the attack on her husband. We are grateful for the quick response of law enforcement and emergency services for the life-saving medical care he's receiving. The letter read, Please know that the outpouring of prayers and warm wishes from so many in the Congress is a comfort to our family and is helping Paul make progress with his recovery. His condition continues to improve. Oh, so now thoughts and prayers do something. The attack was intentional, not random, according to San Francisco Police Chief William Scott. The suspect, 42-year-old David DePape, attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer when officers responded to a priority well-being check at 2:27 a.m. local time, San Francisco police said. Officers found both Pelosi and DePape with one hand on a hammer when they responded to the home, according to Scott. So, an 82-year-old man was holding a 42-year-old man off and managed to survive a blow to the head from said 42-year-old man. Either Paul Pelosi is made of steel, or the soy really, really, really is bad in San Francisco. When they commanded both men to drop the weapon, Mr. DePape took the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently attacked him with the hammer in front of police in clear view of body camera. Officers tackled the suspect and disarmed him, police said. This was not a random act. This was intentional and it's wrong, Scott said. Our elected officials are here to do the business of their cities, their counties, their state, and this nation. Their families don't sign up for this to be harmed. Everybody should be disgusted about what's happened this morning, he added, getting emotional. Suspect shouted, "Where's Nancy?" according to unnamed sources. Paul Pelosi was struck at least one time, though it's unclear how many. Scott said he underwent successful surgery Friday to repair a skull fracture and serious injuries into his right arm and hands, and his doctors expect a full recovery. The speaker spokesperson, Drew Hamill, said in a statement. Two sources familiar with the matter told ABC News his injuries are significant. DePape allegedly entered the house through a sliding glass door. Law enforcement sources familiar with the matter told ABC News. The suspect shouted, "Where's Nancy?" before allegedly striking Paul Pelosi, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Can I see the surveillance? I've seen the compound that they live in. And you can't expect me to not believe that there isn't surveillance for this place. me look and see if we can actually find an image of the compound. Nothing without all the police tape around it. Because this is trending in the news, of course. But even there, I mean... when you look just at the front here with this brownstone, and this is where the police conference was going on, in broad daylight you see that in a house like this, with the kind of money that they have, $15,000 freezers, $40 a pint ice cream. I mean, I can see a camera, what looks to be a camera right here. It's very grainy, very blurry, but I'm not buying that there's no surveillance to this. I'm not buying that. Pelosi was in D.C. with her protective detail at the time, according to Capitol Police. Yeah, that's the other thing. Congress is in session right now. Why is there an expectation that she would have been home? DePape, who was hospitalized with injuries, will be booked on charges including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and elderly abuse, police said. San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins said that her office plans to bring forward multiple felony charges on Monday. His arraignment will likely be on Tuesday, she said. Although it looks like, and we'll look into this a little bit later, they're probably going to delay the arraignment at this point. Because we have him in custody. We don't have to worry about this now. The motive is under investigation, Hamill said. Scott said they're not ready to publicly say what the motive was. But according to the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, a think tank dedicated to researching extremism and disinformation, DePape was likely motivated by a wide range of conspiratorial beliefs. Aha. Tell me more. In the last 2 months. In the last 2 months, you say? So, not beforehand. In the last 2 months, DePape has posted dozens of articles and videos to his blogs, spreading conspiracies and hateful rhetoric. Oh, so only since August, you say, related to the pinko pox, women, Hillary Clinton, the Jewish community, and federal law enforcement. Oh, so he hit all the buzzwords is what you're saying. Federal law enforcement, e.g. the FBI, government censorship, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What do you want to bet that somewhere on this blog, which has, by the way, been taken down already, there was, oh, well, Putin is the greatest leader of the world. The climate crisis, QAnon, and the 2020 election. And only in the last 2 months, you say. The transgender community and grooming in schools, the ISD said. No posts were found specifically mentioning Nancy Pelosi. Authorities are examining a number of social media posts that appear to be associated with DePape, which espouse conspiracy theories about the pinko pox, vaccines, 2020 false elections, frustration with the January 6th congressional hearings, but only in the last 2 months, by the way, and anger over the conviction of Derek Chauvin. Oh, and 2 years later, a year later, I'm sorry. Oh, and a full year later, anger over the conviction of Derek Chauvin. But only 2 months ago. The FBI is expected to seek search warrants for any phones, computers, or other devices that might be associated with DePape. The official said FBI agents were also interviewing people who knew DePape across the Bay Area on Friday, according to federal law enforcement sources. Let's put a pin in that, Arvolt. Welcome to Big Brother's censorship hell. So, all of this only goes back to August and nothing else beforehand, huh? Wow. I am shocked. And then it looks like he's also got another one off WordPress that goes back to June 27th. Or June 2007, rather. Wow, this is interesting. Yeah, if you want to see what's actually going on here, I would suggest that you go through this. Nothing on the blog between 2007 and 2022. And all of a sudden it's all QAnon and it all happens within a few days. Me thinks that there's something screwy with this. The FBI is expected to seek search warrants for any phones, computers, or other devices that might be associated with DePape. The official said FBI agents were also interviewing people who knew DePape across the Bay Area on Friday, according to federal law enforcement sources. So, that's what we see for that. Let's talk about Biden. In front of his blood-red background, Biden blames Republicans for violent attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, from Ryan Saavedra. President Biden blamed Republicans Friday night for the man who attacked House Speaker Pelosi's husband during the early morning hours of Friday. Police said at a press conference they responded to the home around 2:30 a.m. and that when they arrived on the scene, they witnessed the suspect and Paul Pelosi fighting for control of a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it, police said. Addressing a crowd in the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, Biden called the attack despicable, saying there's no place in America for it. There's too much violence, political violence, too much hatred, too much vitriol. You're only supposed to have that much hatred and vitriol when you're burning down the police station. And when a Republican is president. And what makes us think that one party can talk about stolen elections and COVID being a hoax? That it's all a bunch of lies, man. Come on. And not affect people who may not be so well balanced, man. What makes us think that it's not going to corrode the political climate? Enough is enough. Every person of good conscience needs to clearly and unambiguously stand up against violence in our politics. No matter what your politics are, man. Come on. Heavy.com, a fact-finding website, highlighted a tweet from Mission local journalist Joe Eskenazi that stated, "My sources also named the suspect in this morning's hammer attack on Paul Pelosi as David DePape, born 1980, Berkeley. He would appear to be a former Castro nudist protester. Things appeared set to be bizarre for a while." The report highlighted a 2013 article from the San Francisco Chronicle in which the same man appears to have been mentioned, although his name is spelled wrong in the article, but is correctly spelled in the captions of one of the photos included in the article. The article described him as a hemp jewelry maker. CNN reported that the suspect posted debunked conspiracy theories on social media. And yes, that includes WordPress, by the way. Not Twitter, not Facebook, but WordPress. Biden has repeatedly sought to portray himself as a unifier, while in reality he's launched vicious political attacks against his opponents, including claiming Trump supporters represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. No video, though. Linda Coronage tweets out, reportedly, Paul Pelosi attacker is David Pape, a Castro-supporting nudist transient from Berkeley, California. He's on the far left, literally and figuratively. Yeah, it's this dude. Of course he's white. Of course he's from San Francisco. Left to right, family friend David DePape sits on the floor under blankets with Daniel 8, Nabaspod 10, Inti 13, Gypsy Taub and her fiance Jamie Smith as they all watch the show South Park together at their home in Berkeley, California. So he was the weird uncle too. Liberal news media reaction to this story. And yeah, the big question, how do you get in with all the security surrounding the house? At one point, a process server had a hard time getting in. Very strange. Apparently there's some other stuff in the blog too that didn't show up in the archive. Feminist gets owned, State of the World, Devon Stack. 10 to 20% said they were asking for what they wanted. Hillary did nothing wrong. Enjoy your tyranny. Women are systemically oppressed. The Star Wars trilogies, rebel propaganda. Favorite episode of Joe Rogan. That's probably what they're focusing on. Well, and yeah, why do they all have the same posting date? They're pretty close. One guy, they don't. They're pretty close. I think this is what really happened, though. There it is, David DePape. This is mega country. Do you think he had some bleach, too? Maybe? Thank you, Arvold. From CBS, we'll probably gloss over this one because we have touched over some of the blog posts already. Suspect in assault at Pelosi home had posted about QAnon and other conspiracy theories in the last couple months. The man accused of breaking into Speaker Pelosi's home and severely beating her husband with a hammer appears to have made a racist and often rambling posts online, including some that questioned the results of the 2020 election, defended former President Trump, and echoed QAnon conspiracy theories. David DePape grew up in Powell River, British Columbia, before leaving about 20 years ago to follow an older girlfriend to San Francisco. A street address listed for the suspect in the Bay Area college town of Berkeley led to a post office box at a UPS store. The suspect was arrested at the Pelosi home early Friday. San Francisco DA Brooke Jenkins said she expected to file multiple felony charges, including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and elder abuse. Stepfather Gene DePape said the suspect had lived with him in Canada until he was 14 and had been a quiet boy. David was never violent that I seen and never any trouble, although he was very reclusive and played too much video games, Gene DePape said. He said he hasn't seen his son since 2003 and tried to get in touch with him several times over the years without success. In 2007, I tried to get in touch, but his girlfriend hung up on me when I asked to talk to him, Gene DePape said. The suspect was known in Berkeley as a pro-nudity activist who picketed naked at protests against local ordinances requiring people to be clothed in public. Jean DePape said the girlfriend, whom his son followed to California, was named Gypsy, and they had 2 children together. The suspect also has a child with a different woman, his stepfather said. Yeah, great. This one's reproduced. Photographs published by the San Francisco Chronicle on Friday identified the suspect frolicking nude outside City Hall with dozens of others at a 2013 wedding of pro-nudity activist Gypsy Taub, who was marrying another woman. Taub did not respond Friday to calls or emails. In 2013, the article in the Chronicle described the suspect as a hemp jewelry maker who lived in a Victorian flat in Berkeley with Taub, who hosted a talk show on local public access TV called Uncensored 9/11, in which she appeared naked and pushed conspiracy theories that the 01 terrorist attacks were an inside job. A pair of web blogs posted in recent months under the name David DePape continued rants about technology, aliens, communists, religious minorities, transsexuals, and global elites. On August 24th, an entry titled Q displayed a scatological collection of memes that included photos of the deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and made reference to QAnon, the baseless pro-Trump conspiracy theories that espouses the belief that the country is run by a deep state cabal of child sex traffickers, satanic pedophiles, and baby-eating cannibals. Right. But nobody with a brain believes QAnon. Now, again, you've got your JoJo from Joy's and your Jersey Dad Reliant, or Jersey My Wife's Son Reliant, that are coming out there saying, well, QAnon is real and everybody who doesn't believe in Joe Biden believes in QAnon. But let's be realistic. I have not seen anybody from the right even reference QAnon except to say that it's an op and a LARP. But it sure is convenient to come back out here and yank that out when there's somebody that they want to get rid of, isn't it? Let's see, the web hosting service WordPress removed one of the sites Friday for violating its terms of service. On a different site, someone posting under the suspect's name repeated false claims about the pinko-pox jab and wearing masks, and also questioned whether climate change is real. There appear to be no direct posts about Pelosi, but there were some entries defending Trump and Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, who has faced massive backlash over his recent anti-Semitic comments. And I think the rest of this I can't read because we are on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure that they'll get me shut down for that. So let's shift gears and I'll see what else it is they're trying to say. This one comes to us from NPR. Now this comes to NPR from the Associated Press, but still hit that donate button because NPR needs our money, comrade, to make sure that you know that it's all evil. That David DePape is right-wing. And this is what all right-wingers are. Anybody who is to the right of Bernie is like this, exactly like this. They're all exactly the same. And we can tell you that as long as you hit that donate button, because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. So, Paul Pelosi's attacker reportedly had zip ties, an echo of the January 6th insurrection. And remember, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio, let's see what it is that they have to say. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Pelosi's husband carried zip ties with him when he broke into the couple's San Francisco home, according to a person briefed on the investigation, in what is the latest parallel to the Capitol riot of January 6, 2021. The person, who is anonymous because he was not authorized to publicly discuss the Pelosi case, and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity Sunday. So, Harold the janitor came out and said, oh yeah, no, it's totally January 6th. The attack on the Democratic leader's 82-year-old husband, less than 2 weeks before the November 8th election, will determine control of Congress as well as key statewide and local offices, was an unsettling reminder of the nation's toxic political climate. With threats to public officials at an all-time high, members of Congress were being urged to reach out for additional security resources, including increased police patrols of their neighborhoods. U.S. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger said in a weekend memo to lawmakers that the attack is a somber reminder that the threats elected officials and families face in 2022. Yep, still don't buy it. He had zip ties! Just so you know who else had zip ties? Before we go off and say, well, this is absolutely a peril till January 6th. You remember that nut job that drove from Berkeley to Maryland to go and murder Brett Kavanaugh that the media didn't talk about? Yeah, he had zip ties too. Just so you know. Now they're coming out, and one of the things that was with this is the GOP didn't react fast enough to this. They didn't denounce it. They must be complicit. Well, here's Rick Scott, who is the enemy of the left, because it's his point of view. That's the mainstream of the GOP. He wrote the Social Security bill. Here's him denouncing the attack. I should pin that too, by the way, because there's actually no legislation out there that Ron Johnson has supported that talks about cutting Social Security. But Obama's going to go talk about it.
Let's start with the attack on Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. What is your reaction?
It's disgusting. This violence is horrible. That's happened. We had a door knocker in Florida that was attacked. I mean, this stuff has to stop. One thing I did when I took over the NRC a year and a half ago is I went to the Federal Election Commission and said, could our candidates and our senators use their campaign dollars to pay for security? Because, as you know, House and Senate members don't have security, most of them outside of D.C. But a lot of it is we've got to say, we can have a heated conversation about the issues, but this violence has got to stop. This is horrible, and my heart goes out to Paul Pelosi, and I hope he has a full recovery.
We've learned that the suspect's social media shows that he embraced conspiracy theories about the 2020 election in January 6th. I want you to listen to what President Biden said yesterday.
It's one thing to condemn the violence, but you can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there to undermine democracy.
Is he right? Should Republicans do more to reject conspiracy theories and dangerous rhetoric?
I think what we have to do is, one, we have to condemn the violence, and then we have to do everything we can to make sure people feel comfortable about these elections. We've got to do everything we can to get people comfortable that this election in 9 days is going to be free and fair, that people's votes are all going to be counted fairly, they're not going to be diluted. And so that's one thing I've tried to do at the NRC is get people to make sure we're ready. I tell people go to the polls, vote, go to the polls and be poll watchers so you can see that these elections are going to be fair. And we've got to work on it every cycle, get it better every cycle.
To be fair, Senator, most of your Republican colleagues, even those in the Trump White House, said that the 2020 election was free and fair, and that has not stopped the conspiracies from flying. So is it important for people from the top of your party, the former president on down, to tone down the rhetoric about the conspiracies that might instigate somebody who is unhinged, like the man who went into the Pelosi home?
Dan, I think what's important is everybody do everything we can to make these elections fair. We've got Hillary Clinton saying the 24 election is going to be stolen. We've got Stacey Abrams saying she didn't lose. So my job is do everything I can to get people to feel comfortable these elections are fair. And I'm telling people, get out to vote, go be a poll watcher, and when we have the opportunity, let's make our election laws safer. Let's make sure that you have voter ID, you don't have ballot harvesting, you have monitored ballot box. That makes people feel more comfortable that the elections are going to be fair.
Okay, and just to be clear, I want to move on, but there is no evidence that they weren't fair in 2020.
I want to take a moment to say a prayer for a friend of mine, Mr. Paul Pelosi, who was attacked, 82 years old, was attacked when somebody broke into his home looking for his wife, Nancy. And thankfully, doctors believe he's going to be okay, but we'll let the investigators do their jobs. But here's one.
Apparently they're doing some work on my place today, because while we were watching that video, I actually got the call on that. So somebody's going to be in here later on today. So, well, that'll be interesting. All right, anyway, back to what we were saying. And Rick Scott is going to come out to this too, and we do need to come back out and make sure that we are watching everything. But, I don't know of any other time, and Biden's going to say the same thing. It's, they're out there and they're saying all this malarkey, and who knows what this is going to come back and do now. So, well, that's what we see coming for that. Kind of glad I had my microphone off when I got up to go take a drink, because I didn't have my ringer off on my phone. All right, from CBS. Suspect in Pelosi attack had a list of targets, law enforcement sources say. From Jeff Pegues and Gina Martinez. Yeah, but they're not going to ask Scalise. The suspect in the attack on House Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, had a list of people he wanted to target. Law enforcement sources briefed in the investigation confirmed to CBS News. David Wayne DePape, the man accused of beating Paul Pelosi with a hammer inside his San Francisco home on Friday, may have been planning to attack many more people, the sources say. Anonymous sources, of course, but they've not gone so far as to call it a hit list, but authorities believe the suspect may have been planning to target others, the sources said. Why? Because of course he did. DePape is expected to be arraigned on Tuesday. Sources told CBS News that the prosecutors are taking their time filing federal charges because DePape is in custody and no longer a threat. Oh yeah, no, we're fine, no. And oh, by the way, when he gets quietly released because there aren't any charges off of this, then no, nobody's going to remember this anymore, because we were just taking our time on the arraignment. We'll have 5 other news cycles before we get to the arraignment off of this. The midterms will be over by then. An interesting take on the other side of this. We got 2 more on this, then we can move on to some other stuff. It can ruin your career. Glenn Greenwald explains why journalists are terrified to question Paul Pelosi narrative. From Virginia Kruta. Glenn Greenwald said Sunday that there was a very simple reason that members of the chosen profession seemed unwilling to question the narrative surrounding the alleged attack on Paul Pelosi, namely the possibility that asking questions could put their careers at risk. Greenwald laid out his theory on a Twitter thread, saying that it didn't even matter whether or not the prevailing narrative that the person who was arrested at the House Speaker, Pelosi, was a far-right conspiracy theorist, an election denier, was true. The point, he said, was that it couldn't be questioned. It's very possible that the instantly formed media narrative, Paul Pelosi's attacker was a MAGA fanatic who broke in to murder Nancy, will be proven true. But right now there are so many glaring doubts and holes to this story that it just takes common sense to question. Greenwald began. It's genuinely alarming how conditioned so much of the U.S. population is to equate skepticism towards the pronouncements of media corporations with mental illness. If you don't instantly accept that Wolf Blitzer and Andrea Mitchell, Wolf Blitzer and Andrea Mitchell claim, then you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Greenwald went on to explain that even journalists who had questions about the prevailing narrative on any topic often felt as though they couldn't say anything without risking their jobs or even their entire careers. It's so crucial to understand the dynamic dominating journalism. Few journalists have career security, Greenwald continued. Imagine you're a young journalist at a big media corporation. You know, if you ask these questions, Twitter will explode and it can ruin your career. He then shared a tweet from Steve Krakauer that included just a few of the questions he thought media ought to be asking. Why weren't there signs of forced entry at the Pelosi home? Who was the third person who opened the door for police? Why was Pelosi holding a hammer and attacked only after police arrived? Where's the body cam security footage? That I'd like to actually see. Why isn't the press asking these questions? This happened often during Russiagate. I got text DMs, emails from younger journalists inside big media corporations thanking me for being skeptical. They couldn't. One Twitter mob against them for questioning Dem narrative, see Dasha Burns or Bo Knows Best, can be career-ending. Many journalists see the glaring questions and evidentiary holes in the Paul Pelosi narrative, but they also know how important the narrative is to Dems right before the midterms. So why stick their heads up, provoke a liberal Twitter mob, and be branded? That's the climate. Police investigating the Paul Pelosi attack continue to state they do not know the motive. Yet liberal thought leaders like Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Kimmel have decreed that not only is the motive known to them, but only insane or malicious people would even question them. I don't have theories to affirm about motives because I don't try to convince the public to believe things for which there's no evidence, yet that's called basic journalism. The preferred narrative may end up to be right, but most of it's based on massaged by CNN anonymous claims. I'd like to know how someone broke into the home of one of the richest and most powerful families without setting off an alarm, how Paul Pelosi could call 911 in the middle of this, and who the unknown person is who opened the door for the police, and where's the video. Yes, Politico reports officers arrived at the house, knocked on the front door, and were let inside by an unknown person. They discovered DePape and Pelosi struggling for the hammer. And after they instructed them to drop the weapon, Scott said DePape took the hammer and violently attacked Pelosi. And I'll go with what Greenwald said too. I know a lot of the audience here has made up their mind about this. A lot of Twitter, right-wing Twitter, has made up their mind about this. A lot of people that I discuss this with on Twitter have made up their minds about this. There is, although albeit an increasingly slim chance, that the prevailing CNN narrative is correct. It's possible. I'm not going to tell you that this guy was totally a left-wing dude who was set up and paid handsomely by the Pelosi family to go and do this. Make it look real. And don't worry about what happens in jail because they'll take care of it. I'm not going to tell you that's exactly what happened. That's a possibility of what could have happened, but I'm not going to tell you absolutely that that's happened. There is a chance that the prevailing narrative could be correct, but I have a lot of questions about this. I have questions. It's the same thing with the Mar-a-Lago raid. It's the same thing with Russiagate. It's the same thing with the George Floyd, the St. George riots, the St. Jacob riots, and of course the fact that the Patrick Lyoya riots didn't do anything at all. The same thing with the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. In all of those situations, the prevailing narrative could be absolutely true. But there's so many plot holes in this, I have questions. And the people, by the way, who are telling you that this is true because, as they said, Wolf Blitzer and Andrea Mitchell told you that it's true, are the same people that accept Back to the Future movies, the plot line of that without question. Oh no, they could totally go back from the peaceful future and wind up in the violent past. Without first going to 1955. Also the people that don't question why the clock was suddenly working when there was a lightning rod that directed the lightning away from the clock tower. The Blaze has an update on this. Paul Pelosi called Hammer attacker friend in bizarre dispatch audio. Suspect reportedly let Pelosi use the bathroom during home invasion, and he called 911. Breaking update, aerial footage shows a broken window or glass door on Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home where her husband was attacked with a hammer by an intruder. But somebody let him in, and the glass is to the outside. I wanted to see if they have... Yep, they have the police dispatch. Do we have the audio? It doesn't appear that we have the audio. This might be the audio, but we'll listen to that in a minute. Let's look at what it is that they had for a video here. There's no audio with this one. Yeah, the glass is broken to the outside. Why? Let's see what we have here. Police dispatched to Pelosi home. RP stated there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated he doesn't know who the male is, but advised his name is David and that he is a friend. Let's listen.
Northern 4-car, A priority 910, 2640 Broadway, cross of Scott and Normandy. 14-hour copy. RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused. Is a friend? RP sounded somewhat confused. 12 over back and copy.
Well, that's what we have for that. All right, we got to move on from the Paul Pelosi thing again. My big thing is I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is absolutely a false flag. I'm not going to tell you that this is absolutely the be-all, end-all, and that this is MAGA and MAGA country and everything else, but I will urge you to ask questions. I have questions about the narrative that's presented to us. But you can't ask those questions because otherwise you're a dangerous, crazy conspiracy theorist. All right, we've got another one from our friends at NPR who need to tell you how evil Elon Musk is for the fact that he bought the platform that they use to disseminate the information to tell you how horrible communism is. So, if you like what you see, hit that donate button because they need your money, our money, comrade, to tell you how dangerous Elon Musk is. Elon Musk says Twitter restored his account without his knowledge before the acquisition. This is reported by Juliana Kim. So, hit that donate button because they are never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. On his first full day as the owner of Twitter, Elon Musk says the company will form a content moderation council with widely diverse viewpoints. You can't have widely diverse viewpoints. You can only have far, far left socialistic, communistic viewpoints, guys. He also said Twitter restored the account of Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, before he completed the deal to purchase the social media platform. "They did not consult with or inform me," Musk says. The social media platform had locked Ye's account earlier this month after an anti-Semitic post that threatened Jewish people. Musk says the company will not make major decisions on content or reinstating suspended accounts until the council convenes. NPR has reached out to Twitter for comment and will update when we get a response. Musk bought the company Thursday night after making Twitter a private company. Musk also fired the CEO, CFO, and top lawyer, signaling a new era for the social media site. "The reason I acquired Twitter is because it's important for the future of civilization to have a common digital town square where a wide range of beliefs can be debated in a healthy manner," Musk wrote. He added that Twitter would not become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. But Musk also said he wanted the platform to offer a desired experience based on users' preferences, similar to the choices offered in movie and video games. Many have questioned whether Musk's vision will include lifting the account ban of former President Trump, who was permanently suspended after the Capitol Selfie Fest. In a Truth Social post on Friday, Trump wrote, "I'm very happy that Twitter is now in the sane hands and no longer will be run by radical left lunatics and maniacs. They're the worst, okay? The absolute worst." Vijaya Gadde, a top Twitter lawyer fired by Musk, played a key role in deciding to ban Trump from the platform. Ye's Instagram had also been restricted by parent company Meta earlier this month. Upon his return to the site on Thursday, Ye posted, "I lost $2 billion in one day and I'm still alive." Correction, October 28th, 2022, Elon says Twitter restored Ye's account before he acquired the company. An earlier version of the story said it appeared Ye's account had been restored only after Musk took over. Oh, that's fun. So I just happened to glance over into the music stream over there, and one of the people in the chat, which is usually a very, very, cat girl, she boy, leftist chat, has Mullen Lobby in the chat. That'll probably make a few heads explode. From Insider, Elon Musk says he's creating a moderation council for Twitter after Kanye West's account was reinstated. From Jati Man, Elon Musk announced plans to create a Twitter content moderation council on Friday after taking over the company in a $44 billion deal. The new owner of Twitter tweeted that the body would be made up of people who hold widely diverse viewpoints. Musk said no major decisions or account reinstatements will happen before that council convenes. He added, "To be super clear, we've not made any changes to Twitter's content moderation policies." The billionaire's comments come on the day that he took control of the social media platform. Musk also offered other ideas on how content on the site could be moderated. One user commenting on Twitter's plans for the council said Facebook has an oversight board, but it failed to please either side of the political spectrum. That's because they tend to skew one way still. Musk responded and suggested users in future could select which version of Twitter you want, and likening it to a movie maturity rating. He said tweets rating could be self-selected and modified by user feedback. Despite saying that Twitter wouldn't reinstate any accounts before the council meets, Musk tweeted that people who were suspended for minor and dubious reasons would be released from Twitter jail. Which means Helton will probably be back. Yay, that'll be a fun Twitter follow again. Ron Helton. Another user asked why Kanye's account was reinstated, and Musk replied, "Ye's account was restored by Twitter before the acquisition. They did not consult or inform me." Commenting on Twitter's change of ownership, the creator of cryptocurrency Dogecoin, Shibatoshi Nakamoto, tweeted on Friday, "I don't know who needs to hear this, but death threats aren't a part of protected free speech. It's in a different category called a crime. So, you still don't get to do that." I don't recall him making a death threat. I recall him misspelling a word. Elon also tweeting out, Wachtell and Twitter board deliberately hid this evidence from the court. Stay tuned, more to come. With a screenshot. Yoel Roth. But also, LOL, if Amir continues to BS me, my escalation route is Amir's OKRs are entirely based on fraudulent metrics and he doesn't care and may actively try to hide the ball. Literally what Elon is accusing us of doing. Liz Wheeler tweets back, "This isn't surprising. Yoel Roth is a nasty individual. Shouldn't have been the first person fired, or should have been the first person fired rather. Yoel Roth once called Trump actual Nazis and racist tangerine, and used his opinion to justify censoring Trump tweets." Elon replies, "We've all made some questionable tweets, me more than most. But I want to be clear that I support Yoel. My sense is that he's high integrity, and we're all entitled to our political beliefs." I'd love to see the internal Slack channel just get completely released to the world. From the Blaze, Elon Musk gets hilarious actual real email from Twitter about mandatory course he must finish in 30 days on what it means to be a good manager at Twitter. I'm going to say he's probably not going to do that. From Alex Nitzberg. Billionaire business magnate Elon Musk, who recently acquired Twitter, posted a screenshot of an email he received from the big tech giant inviting him to begin a course called Managing at Twitter 101. M101 covers what it means to be a good manager at Twitter by showing you how to create opportunities for impact, help your tweets grow their careers, and demonstrate your care for your team, the note explained. The message said Musk had 30 days to complete the mandatory course, and that once finished, he would be enrolled in Managing Twitter 201. Just received this email from Twitter. This is actual real email that was auto-generated. Musk commented when sharing the screenshot. He also included 2 laughing emojis. So demanding to allow a mere 30 days to learn this priceless information, he added in another post, but Management 201 is such a tantalizing carrot, he tweeted. Replying to someone who asked, what's the most messed up? At the social media company, Musk replied, there seem to be like 10 people managing for every one person coding. Yeah, imagine telling the person who just spent $44 billion for your company, yeah, you have to go take this course now. That's awesome. Another one from Insider. Verified Twitter users may soon have to pay a monthly fee to keep their badges under Elon Musk's leadership report. Following Elon's $44 billion deal to buy Twitter, several outlets reported the self-declared anti-advertising Chief Twit may soon launch a new method to generate revenue on the social media platform by making users pay for their verification badges. Sources familiar with the matter told Platformer, a newsletter created by Casey Newton, a former editor of The Verge, that Twitter execs spent the weekend discussing possible change to the social media platform where users would be asked to pay to subscribe to Twitter Blue or lose their badges. Twitter Blue, a $4.99 monthly subscription, launched last year as the platform's premium offering, giving users access to new features like customizable app icons, the ability to undo or bookmark tweets, and a reader mode to more easily view the long thread of posts. A verification tier subscription may cost as much as $20 a month, The Verge reported. Yeah, I'm not paying that. Currently only available in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, Twitter's Blue launch has struggled with niche appeal and limited features, but linking verification to subscription fees could bolster its popularity, Should Twitter require payment for its verified status, it would be the first major American social media app to do so, as most platforms offer the feature for free. Which would be interesting, because I actually think that a lot of publicists, I don't know if the celebrities themselves would do it, but I think a lot of publicists would pay for that. So that people can't go back out and, do what the verification badge was initially meant to do. Well, we've got 7,000 people pretending to be this person, or a fan page of this person, but this is the real person right here. Even if a lot of the verified accounts don't actually have the official person tweeting on them. They have some staffer do it. I mean, President Biden has a blue check. I guarantee you that he's not the one that's making the tweets. The current verification process, which Musk has previously described as like if Kafka had a magic 8-ball, has long been decried as an elitist status, with narrow eligibility requirements sometimes considered biased against average users. Tying verification to the paid subscription model would establish clearer criteria for getting a badge, as well as generate additional revenue for the social media platform. Though the move has not been finalized, sources told Platformer, Musk has in the past posted about how he hates advertising, and in his takeover pitch to investors pledged to cut the platform's reliance on ad revenue and increase the average revenue per user. Now, my big problem with that is, like I've told you all, that I want to go and start a media company. That's been a dream of mine from the beginning. To start off a media company and represent programs like The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, Overruled with KTZed, Tweets by Brit, whatever iteration she comes with, PJ Patriot, the No Gimmicks podcast, Mr. Behavior. I want to represent all of them. And I would, if I had the media company and the revenue for it, I would put up the money for the verification badges. That would be what, $140 a month to verify these people? Because I feel like in situations where people are out there that they would go back and people would start to pretend to be them to try to get them kicked off the platform. Leftists really don't have much to do. But the big question there would be when Stephen Ignoramus gets kicked off of Twitter again, will I get my money back for his verification? It was the same thing when Facebook keeps trying to get me on my fan page, which we're streaming to. Hey, pay us and we'll promote your posts. I'm like, well, you're not going to give me my money back when you kick me off the platform, so why the hell would I pay you? From the Blaze, pranksters pretending to be ex-Twitter employees successfully dupe some reporters, and even Elon Musk is impressed. One of the best trolls ever. I am going to come right out and confess to this before we read into this. I thought these were actual people getting fired from this, from the Twitter platform, and just their names appearing together like that was a completely unfortunate coincidence. I thought it was real, and I just thought it was an unfortunate coincidence. But some of these journalists just didn't even get it. From Courtney Wheel. Two men managed to convince several members of the media that they were disaffected former Twitter software engineers who had just lost their jobs, and they needed all they needed were props and a deadpan expression to pull off the stunt. On Friday, two men carrying cardboard boxes and looking despondent outside Twitter headquarters in San Francisco began spinning a tale of professional woe to some members of the media who were in the area. In the event that new Twitter owner Elon Musk began axing rank-and-file staff. The men stated their names were Rahul Ligma and Daniel Johnson. Though the latter name might not raise any red flags, savvy social media users immediately understood the Ligma reference and were on to the joke. Ligma is an internet meme about a fictitious disease which is said to have taken the life of Fortnite streamer Ninja. It also has sexual undertones. I still say they should have gone with Balzac, which is a real surname, by the way. But Ligma Johnson works well too. The man claiming to be Ligma had a copy of Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and told reporters Michelle Obama wouldn't have happened if Elon owned Twitter. He also claimed that he had just been fired over Zoom and that he didn't have any job prospects on the horizon. His fellow prankster, Daniel Johnson, whose last name likewise makes sexual reference, dropped several words and phrases often associated with leftists and big tech culture. I mean, if free speech, if Nazis saying that trans women shouldn't use women's locker rooms, Johnson stated, then awesome, I guess, mission accomplished. Listen, I've got to touch base with my husband and wife, he added before leaving. Let's listen.
His own words. What do you make of that? What do you think Twitter will look like?
I mean, if free speech is, Nazis saying that, trans women shouldn't, use women's locker rooms, then awesome. I guess mission accomplished. We'll see. Listen, I got to touch base with my husband and wife. I got to get out of here, all right? Thank you, guys.
What's your name?
Sorry. Daniel. Thank you.
Several reporters were all too eager to share the story. Deirdre Bosa of CNBC quickly tweeted, "It's happening. Entire team of data engineers let go. These are two of them," sharing a picture of Ligma and Johnson. She has since admitted that she has not been able to confirm that they were actual employees or that the company has laid off anybody today. Local reporter Suzanne Fan of ABC 7 Bay Area reportedly fell for the hoax as well, though the tweet she allegedly posted about the two men has since been deleted. One high-profile figure who did not fall for the scheme is Musk. Musk tweeted about the two pranksters several times and expressed appreciation for their ingenuity. "One of the best trolls ever," he wrote, with 2 laughing emojis. He even alerted his followers that he understood the references of the 2 pseudonyms, tweeting, "Ligma Johnson had it coming." And what Glenn Beck's puristic website doesn't say is that he put the eggplant and the moist emojis together. Oh, that was funny. "Comedy is now legal on Twitter," he added. All right, we are up on, well, we've got a little bit of time left. Let's see what else we can grab from this. Sure about that. Joe Biden, 79, claims U.S. has 54 states during speech in support of post-stroke Senate hopeful John Fetterman, as gaps pile up and concerns continue to mount about the president's cognitive abilities. Well, this has got to be a boon and a blessing in disguise for Mr. Fetterman, because, I mean, Biden can just come out and say a bunch of stupid stuff and make Fetterman look good by comparison. From Joseph Michalitsianos. How many syllables is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 syllable surname. President Biden made yet another blunder when he spoke in Philadelphia on Friday, claiming he had been to 54 states at a rally to drive support for the embattled Democrat John Fetterman. Fetterwoman, get it right. Biden gave garbled remarks on how his admin had improved healthcare and mistakenly said that he had went to 54 states to stop pharmaceutical companies from driving drug prices. And we can watch it too. His addition of 4 non-existent states is the latest in a long line of gaffes that has continued to raise concerns about the health of Biden, who is the oldest president in U.S. history. Despite those worries, Biden has insisted he'll run for a second term in 2024. Let's listen.
By the way, if they do, that means, not a joke, everybody, that's why we were defeated in 2018 when they tried to do it. We went to 54 states.
I don't think she ever took an environmental course in college.
Biden has made a series of worrying gaffes throughout his time as president, most recently zoning out completely when asked by reporters if his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, wants him to run for president again. I've not made that decision, but it's my intention. My intention to run again, and we have time to make that decision, the president began. Dr. Biden is for it, the MSDNC interviewer asked, only to be met with silence. Mr. President, the reporter prods, to virtually no reaction from Biden. "81 million votes, folks." Daily Wire. Majority of Americans think crime is up. MSDNC says they're just manipulated by Republicans. Americans are overwhelmingly convinced that crime has risen in comparison to last year as voters prepare to cast ballots in the midterm elections. According to a new poll from Gallup, roughly 56% of adults reported an increase in crime where they live, while 78% believe crime has risen in the nation as a whole, making the worst sentiment about public safety in 3 decades. While a far higher percentage of Republicans reported more local crime, Democratic views were essentially unchanged, even as independents' perceptions leaned towards concerns of increased lawlessness. On the issue of crime, Republicans boast a 14% lead over their Democratic counterparts in terms of voter trust ahead of the midterms, including 34% lead among independents according to a poll from ABC News and The Washington Post. The present cycle has witnessed several Republican underdogs surging to become viable candidates against Democrat incumbents. In deep blue New York, for example, Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin is posing a surprise challenge to Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul as residents become increasingly worried about public safety and homelessness. Nevertheless, MSDNC opinion columnist Hayes Brown wrote an analysis that the Gallup poll shows the disconnect between the perception of increased crime in an area and whether that purported increase can actually accurately be measured, adding that Republican efforts to frame cities as liberal-created hellscapes may have shaped sentiment. He referred to nationwide crime data from the Department of Justice, which showed violent victimization, which includes violent crimes such as rape, robbery, while omitting murder, did not change between 2020 and 2021, even as property crimes had not significantly increased from the previous year. This is only a slightly less dangerous version of former President Trump's election denialism cycle in 2020. Say that there is a problem with real evidence, then use the fact that people think there is a problem as proof that problem exists, Hayes wrote. Republicans have invested a lot of time and money into priming the country to believe that Democrats have heralded in a new era of lawlessness, and only the GOP's mass incarceration plans can keep people safe. Gallup's poll shows Republicans are getting a very solid return on that investment. Meanwhile, many cities have indeed witnessed crime waves, even beyond the massive jump seen 2 years ago, according to data assembled by Wallet Hub. Cities such as New Orleans, Detroit, Albuquerque, and Colorado Springs saw increases in their homicide rate per capita between the third quarter of 2021 and the third quarter of 2022. 12 of the major American cities which set new homicide records last year were run by Democrats. Noting that violent crime increases have continued into this year across much of the country, University of Pennsylvania criminology professor Richard Burke contended that the rise of BLM movement and criticism of police is among the best explanations for the rise in crime over the past 8 years. Some moderation in the use of force could result from well-meaning responses to past excesses, while some police officers might simply choose to abstain from any encounters for which they might be later criticized, fired, sued, or criminally charged, he wrote. Whatever the truth is behind the conjectures, one consequences might be to embolden individuals already inclined towards violence. Public criticism of the police might be seen as delivering proverbial get-out-of-jail-free card. And one of the things I've noted is a lot of people are pointing out that red states have seen the biggest increase in crime, while we see DAs in San Francisco and New York getting recalled or fired because they're not prosecuting enough crime and catching and releasing. I mean, we saw it in Waukesha. $1,000 bail, and the guy goes and gets out and drives his car over 78 people in a Christmas parade. Because a left-wing judge and DA decided that, oh, well, this really isn't that bad. Just turn him loose, get him back out there. So, well, there's a lot that goes along with that. Speaking of increased crime, from the Associated Press, arrest and office burglary at Hobbs' campaign headquarters in Arizona, with no author given. Phoenix police have made an arrest in connection with a burglary at the campaign headquarters for Katie Hobbs, the Democratic nominee for governor. An officer saw a news story with surveillance photos of the suspect and recognized him as the man arrested for burglary at another office in the area. The police said the officer contacted the jail to ensure the 36-year-old suspect would not be released and rearrested him for the burglary at Hobbs' office. The man had items missing from Hobbs' office with him when he was arrested for the unrelated burglary, said Phoenix Police Sergeant Phil Krinsky. Police have not said whether the theft was politically motivated. Well, given the fact that he just went out and got a keyboard and some office supplies means that it probably wasn't. He was probably just out looking for a quick buck. Maybe to go get some crack. But Carrie Lake had to get her jab into there because, well, she's actually kind of good at that. Being a media person probably helped her a lot. Carrie Lake. After accusing my team of coordinating a Watergate-style break-in of her office, Katie Hobbs has now flip-flopped and does not want to talk about the crime. This comes after the arrest was made and no political motivation is confirmed.
Hi. What was taken from your campaign office? And do you have reason to believe that this was politically motivated?
I'm not talking
It's kind of a big deal, though, that your campaign office was broken into.
I think access to safe and legal abortion is kind of a big deal, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Do you have reason to believe it was politically motivated?
We're not going to go beyond the statement at this time. Secretary Hobbs.
Hi. What was taken from your campaign office? And do you have reason to believe that this was politically motivated?
I'm not talking about that. Just go away. I'm not talking about that anymore. Yeah, that's the person that you want as your governor. Let's talk about Seoul, because I think that's going to be important. What we know about the deadly Halloween disaster in Seoul, from Sophie Jung, Gawan Bae, Paula Hancock, Hillary Whiteman, and Jesse Young. Most weekends, the narrow alleyways of Itaewon, the neon-lit nightlife district in South Korea's capital, Seoul, are busy with partygoers and tourists. Now it's the site of one of the country's worst disasters. On Saturday, tens of thousands of people flooded into the area in central Seoul to celebrate Halloween, but panic erupted as the crowd swelled, with some witnesses saying it became hard to breathe and impossible to move. Through Sunday, the number of dead climbed to 154, with dozens more injured. Authorities have now launched the urgent investigation to find out what was supposed to be a night of celebration went so horribly wrong, as families across the country mourn and search for missing loved ones. Here's what we know so far. Why were the crowds so big? Itaewon has long since been a popular place to celebrate Halloween, especially as the holiday became more popular in Asia in recent years. Some even fly into Seoul from other countries in the region for the festivities. But for the past 2 years, celebrations were muted by pandemic restrictions on crowd sizes and mask mandates. Saturday marked the first Halloween since the country lifted these restrictions, lending it popular significance for many eager participants in Seoul, as well as international visitors, including foreign residents and tourists. Hotels and ticketed events in the neighborhood had been booked solid in advance, and large crowds were expected. Witnesses told CNN there was very little, if any, crowd control before the mass of people turned deadly. Videos and photos posted to social media show people crammed together, standing shoulder to shoulder in the narrow street. Crowds are not unusual for that area, or for Seoul residents who are used to jam-packed subways and streets in the city of almost 10 million. One eyewitness said it took some time for people to realize something was wrong, with people's panicked screams competing with music blaring from the surrounding clubs and bars. After the first emergency calls came in around 10:24, authorities rushed to the scene, but the sheer volume of people make it difficult to reach those who needed help. A video posted on social media showed people performing compressions on partygoers lying on the ground as they waited for medical assistance. The thousands of people in costumes contributed to the widespread sense of confusion and chaos. One witness described seeing a police officer shouting during the disaster, but some revelers mistook him for another partygoer. The cause of the crush is still under investigation, though officials say there were no gas leaks or fires on site. So, I mean, this is insanity. And again, I mean, this is part of the reason that I don't like cities either, because, you know, you're walking down the street somewhere in Chicago, and I've seen the way that they're on the sidewalks in Chicago, by the way. It's probably pretty easy to go get pickpocketed or get into something like this on just a Tuesday in Chicago. It's pretty intense, actually. And why I don't like to go into these places, but especially in a bigger crowd like this. Like, I enjoyed the Garth Brooks concert that we went to in Rosemont years ago. But man, just to look around like that was just unsettling. And I bet you it was absolutely nothing. Somebody grabbed somebody else's boob, that person was spooked and tried to get away, and chaos ensued. Is what I'm guessing happened with all of that. Sky News. How did the Seoul Halloween celebration turn into a deadly crush? Live streams and videos from social media provide extra details as to how a Halloween celebration turned disastrous for the South Korean capital. I don't know if I can show this or not. Packed into narrow alleyways lined with bars and clubs, thousands of people traveled to Itaewon, an area of Seoul, for the city's first Halloween festival since the Pinkopox pandemic. But as the crowds grew throughout the night, to unmanageable levels, the celebration turned disastrous as a crush in one alleyway left 153 people dead. Sky News analyzed videos from social media to show how it took just 30 minutes for the situation to spiral out of control. They also confirmed an apparent lack of police or security presence in the build-up to the crush. Excuse me. Talking about the crowd growing in size. At 10:06, people can still be seen in the main alley, running east to west, still freely moving, but slowly. Some people are holding each other to avoid being split up by the crowd as they pass an Irish bar in the background. People so close to each other that any small movement rippled through the crowd. Man, that's intense. I couldn't even imagine. I wouldn't go to something like that. Around the corner, Janelle Story, an eyewitness who spoke to Sky News, filmed her view as the crowd surged. The video was captured at 10:34 p.m. Story told Sky News, very suddenly, this wave of people just came rushing towards us with this incredible force and urgency, and in that moment I stopped filming because it got really serious and scary. But really, again, no answer as to what started this, so it's intense. No desire to ever go in and do something like that. Let's see, what else do we have? Russia says UK Navy blew up Nord Stream. London denies involvement. From Guy Falconbridge and Sachin Ravikumar. Russia's defense ministry said on Saturday that British Navy personnel blew up the Nord Stream gas pipelines last month, a claim that London said was false and designed to distract from Russian military failures in Ukraine. Russia did not give evidence for its claim that a leading NATO member had sabotaged critical Russian infrastructure amid the worst crisis in relations between the West and Russia since the depths of the Cold War. The Russian ministry said British specialists from the same unit directed at Ukrainian drone attacks on ships of the Russian Black Sea fleet in Crimea earlier on Saturday, and said that it said were largely repelled by Russian forces with minor damage to a Russian minesweeper. According to available information, representatives of this unit of the British Navy took part in the planning, provision, and implementation of a terrorist attack in the Baltic Sea on September 26 this year, blowing up Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines, the ministry said. Britain denied the claim. As far as this goes, I still believe that it's probably somebody out of the West that did this. There's no incentive for Russia to do this and take away their bargaining chip. None. But this may teeter us back into more war and rumors of war. From the Blaze, on any other day, with the Paul Pelosi news coming out, this would have been top story, which, you know, that may be the reason that was put out there to distract as well. Bombshell report suggests the Pinko pox escaped from Wuhan Institute of Virology earlier than expected. CCP's Xi may have tried to cover up the world-changing lab leak. From Paul Saka. A new report claims the origin of the Pinko pox is the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. The damning report also suggests that Chinese leader Xi Jinping was aware that the Wuhan lab suffered an acute safety emergency, event that may have spread the Pinko pox well before China notified the World Health Organization. ProPublica, in partnership with Vanity Fair, published the bombshell report on Friday. The report is based on a 5-month investigation that analyzed more than 500 documents obtained from the Wuhan Institute of Virology's website. The documents include communications between officials at the Wuhan lab and top leaders within the CCP dating back to 2017. Tony Reid, a specialist decoding party speak by the CCP, was enlisted to accurately decode the delicate communications between the scientists at the Biosafety Level 4 facility and significant government officials. It's not meant to be easily understood. It's almost like a secret language. It's of Chinese officialdom, explained Reid, a former political officer in East Asia for the U.S. State Department. When they're talking about anything potentially embarrassing, they speak of it in innuendo and hushed tones, and there's a certain acceptable way of alluding to something. One vague WIV message sent November 12, 2019 caught his eye. Once you've opened the stored test tubes, it's just as if having opened Pandora's box. These viruses come without a shadow and leave without a trace. Although we have various preventative and protective measures, it's nevertheless necessary for lab personnel to operate very cautiously and avoid operational errors that give rise to dangers. Every time this has happened, the members of the Zhendian Lab, BSL-4 party branch, have always run to the front line, and they've taken real action to mobilize and motivate other research personnel. Reid interpreted the messages. They are almost saying they know Beijing is about to come down and scream at them. ProPublica reported that Dr. Xi Zhengzheng, the Technology Safety and Security Director at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, visited the Wuhan lab on November 19, 2019. The visit to the state-run and funded research facility was billed as a safety training seminar, but Reid believes it was out of the ordinary and event-driven. Xi informed WIV's senior officials that he had made the trip to Wuhan to deliver important oral remarks and written instructions from General Secretary Xi Jinping to address a complex and grave situation. So, the investigation found the Wuhan Institute of Virology to be the most logical origin of the pinkpox and spread through a lab leak. The investigation found the zoonotic origin theory was unlikely. The theory that the pinkpox originated from the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan is questionable because there's still no evidence of animal being infected with the coronavirus. But they can get the monkeypox. That's a different story, though. So, what most of us have known from the beginning. It came from the lab and it got leaked. I don't know why anybody's surprised by this, but again, we released this in the middle of midterms, in the midst of the Elon buyout and the Paul Pelosi attack. It's almost like they don't want anybody to talk about it. Alright, I got just a couple more here, then we'll head out of here for the day. We'll do the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, and these are just videos. Sebastian Gorka. Trans barista has a meltdown because 8 hours is too long to work on a day.
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but, like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and then on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers. And we don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders on. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because I don't have their orders ready and they don't know what to do. And a customer was misgendering me today, like really badly. I didn't have their order ready. And so they were just like talking like each other and they're like, she's clearly incompetent. I have a full mustache and beard. What the fuck? I don't get accommodations for being neurodivergent. I don't... Like, I can't use... people get mad at me for using my sick time. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm, like, at my wit's end with this job. I really am. I just want people.
There's so much wrong with this. Now, number one, that is clearly a chick, even with the full mustache and beard. Full mustache and beard. That is clearly a chick. Man, I wish that you could have seen what I did last Thursday when I was at work for 10 hours, which is a regular occurrence for me, by the way. I've even done as far as 14 hours in a day with people that are yelling at you constantly. It's not a new thing. The thing that really gets me, of course, this is why we need a union. Well, you're still serving the public, so that's not going to change. And by the way, you're still not going to be able to bring more people in when people call out. In fact, the union would probably make that a more apt thing. More people would be calling out, including probably yourself if you were unionized off of that. And the thing that gets me, customers are yelling at me, and this person clearly misgendered me. Who do you think your clientele is? No, I'm actually honestly asking that. Who do you think your clientele is when you're doing things like this? Now, it doesn't say what Starbucks this is at, but I'm willing to bet that given the female with a clear full beard, that this is probably somewhere out on the West Coast, or even still somewhere in some deep, deep liberal bastion. But even like around here, where I live, in southern Wisconsin, there is a Starbucks in Janesville. I don't know where it is, but I know that there is one, because I see the cups from it all the time. But they're rare. I know I just kind of oxymoron myself. I see them all the time, but they're rare. But I do see the cups for Starbucks around here. They're just, I don't see them as often as I see a Quick Trip or Dunkin'. I see more Quick Trip coffee cups than anything. I don't even know how a Starbucks can maintain in Wisconsin outside of possibly Madison and Milwaukee. Because we have a little thing called Quick Trip that has way better coffee. And hell, Dunkin' is even better. But who's your clientele at a Starbucks? It's insane leftoids who want to pay way too much for a coffee. Because nobody else is going there. Because they put their political fingers into everything. And the people who aren't insane leftoids don't want to go there. And the last one, I think this is a hoax, by the way. I really do. We'll put the video up, and then I'll explain why I think this is a hoax. So, Daniel Ulfelder, D.W. Ulfelder Law, who is a UF Law graduate, founder of Remove Ron, 2022 Florida AG candidate, and chief tormentor of Ron DeSantis. I don't think he really cares about you. He is a husband, dad, and Florida attorney. Stanford and UF Law grad, founder of Remove Ron. 2022 Florida AG candidate, chief tormentor of Ron DeSantis, truth and justice advocate. Yeah, again, I don't think he really cares about you. I don't think you're a chief tormentor. I think that he looks down at the paper and says, oh, Ulfelder. Okay, I don't give a damn. But he assures us that it was displayed on the outside of a stadium at UGA game in Jacksonville earlier tonight, and now on the outside of the other Jacksonville buildings like this one. And we read as we play the video, Kanye is right about the Jews. My first question about this is, why is the text on this clearer than the rest of the picture? And my other question here, by the way, is, where are the windows? Now, I don't know if this is an actual building that was designed this way, but on the side that this is being displayed on, you'll notice that there are no windows except on the outside. On the very outside edges, there are windows there, but the rest of the way down, there are no windows, whereas you look at the opposite side away from where this is being displayed, it is dotted by windows. They're just everywhere. There's windows upon windows upon windows. And for whatever reason, on the outside, there's just a row of windows on either side, and the rest of it is nothing. I am sure that skyscrapers like that exist, but I've never seen one like that before. And further, the projection. This gives me the most questions, is the projection off of this. Because usually if you go back and project, either you're sitting dead straight on, or you'll get a wraparound somewhere. Because this is, again, they're saying this is being projected from far away. Or you'll get, because of the way the light hits and the way the projector goes, you'll actually get a little bit of a wrap of the text around the building. Very slight. I don't believe this. I don't believe any of this. I will let you all draw your own conclusions. I was not in Jacksonville. I've never seen this building. I've been through Jacksonville once, but it was on the interstate. But I don't buy it. I think this is false. All right, let's check the rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. So the last thing that we always do on Mondays, we check in, because I am an ultra-capitalist. We read one of the Ferengi rules of acquisition. And by the way, I just finished up a binge of Next Generation, and I moved right straight into Deep Space Nine. So they didn't do them I think for the first season. I think they started showing up in the second season, but I'll actually be seeing some of these episodes in practice as we go. Where did we leave off? We're getting down there, I know that. Okay, so the last one we did was there's no honor in poverty, and as a person who's been impoverished, I understand that entirely. So that's not something to go too far out from. The next one, the 108th rule of acquisition, is hope doesn't keep the lights on. This comes from the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, Deep Space Nine reference book. 108th rule of acquisition, hope doesn't keep the lights on, and it doesn't. I'm going to say that right off the bat. You come into situations, you do things, you hope and pray that your life comes out to a point that you can continue to feed your family, keep the roof over your head, and everything turns out well. But you have to put some input into this as well. There are people out there who get the big check from mommy and daddy and don't have to do anything. We call most of them Democrats at this point. But in reality and in full practice, it doesn't keep the lights on. In full reality, when you don't put any effort into it, when you just sit down on your knees and pray that your lights stay on, there's nothing else that goes with that. And yes, God may provide for you, but you still, again, need to go put that effort in. So, in addition to trying to have hope with everything, that everything's going to turn out well, you do have to take some time and adjust your own situation. It almost is the assertion that hard work pays off in the end. So, remember, you can hope, and do have hope, by the way, but it won't keep the lights on. It will require some effort on your part as well. And with that, we're out of here. Where's the outro music? Where's my other scene? All right, and with that, I've actually got to take off out of here. I've got to get out and get the rest of my day going on here. So, I don't know if I'll have news yet for a while, but yeah, as I said at the top of the show, Contemporary may be changing, and the time slot is probably going to be changing no matter what. So, we'll get to that. We'll see what's happening with that and where we go from there. I don't ever want to stop doing this, though, so do keep that in mind. But we're going to head out of here for the day. Thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Stick around for the raid as we go and check out the Daily Ignoramus. See if he is actually on right now. He is. So if you're on the Twitch side, stick around with us, and I will take you over there for him. And we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines for him. Well, that's my voice. I can hear myself. And more news and more headlines and more contemporary. So definitely stick around. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys here tomorrow for more of that. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.